is your Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. That, of course, that voice, of course, was Jeff Scott Soto. That's from his band S.O.T.O. The name of that tune was World Gone Colder, and on the line is the singer of that song. He sings all the songs on Origami, as well as probably every other song that you've had released in 2019. It is Jeff Scott Soto. Jeff, how are you, my friend?
Chris, my brother, how are you, man? So great to talk to you again.
Dude, it's always great, and thankfully you're busy enough that you know, we never go too long without chatting.
Exactly. Hey, I guess we probably speak more because of my records than we would if we were just like buddies and hung out.
Exactly. Well, you know what's funny, man? I did an interview, I don't know, a month or so ago with Johnny Gioli, who I know you're friends with, and we got into this long conversation about it's like a battle between you and him. If he puts out a record with somebody, then you put out a record. Then he puts out another to counter yours, because between the two of you in the last 12 months, I think there's 10 records.
Well, dude, you know, it's not because, trust me, we ain't breaking the bank with these records.
Right.
We do this for the love. We still love music. We still love creating. And, you know, the bottom line is this is what we do. This is what we do and how we do it. It'll always be there, that passion of when we were little kids, and this was a dream to actually be able to make a living and just be able to touch the world with our music. And that's why we still do it. I mean, you know, with the demographic, the whole platform has changed with the world and music. It ain't what it used to be, and you know, that ain't going to stop me anytime soon.
Sure, and nor should it, because if there's anything that you do better than everybody, and there's a lot of things that you do better than most, but if there's anything that you do better than pretty much anybody in the music industry today, it's that you, for somebody that's as busy as you are, you don't really cross paths with your own styles. When you release a solo record, people know that it's not going to sound like Sons of Apollo, and S.O.T.O's not going to sound like your solo records. You have a really distinct skill of keeping your music, you know, kind of segregated into nice little spots.
And of course that's by design, because the last thing I want to do is compete against myself. I mean, the craziest thing that ever happened in my career, my life, was when I did 3 records back to back to back.
Sure.
You know, I did my last solo record, Retribution, the first Sons of Apollo record, and the latest Wet album, basically simultaneously. I was finishing one and jumping into the next, and you talk about burnt. I was fried, brother. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of creativity, and you know, it's a lot of what I do, a lot of what we do as musicians, it's supposed to just flow out. It's supposed to just happen organically and naturally. And that gives me the opportunity to do so much work in such a little time. But that was ludicrous. And at that point, I think I was kind of competing against myself in too much too soon.
Sure.
I really loved all the records I was working on. But at some point, and this is one of the reasons by design S.O.T.O is on the same label as Sons of Apollo, is because I don't have to compete with myself. I know Sons of Apollo taking a bit of a break this year, and this gives me the opportunity to jump into S.O.T.O and really work that album cycle the proper way, instead of battling, okay, which interview am I talking about, which album this time, you know?
Sure. Now, you know, outside of this, I write books, and I'm nowhere near as prolific as you at writing music, but I've written 5 books in 5 years, and I've got 2 more that are on the way. So I certainly understand about commitment and what it takes to do something creative.
Right.
But unlike you, it seems, I'm probably going through a writer's block for the first time ever, where I've gone like 4 months where I don't have anything to write. Do you ever experience that? And when you do, does it almost scare you, like, uh-oh, what am I going to do here?
You know what? There's enough going on in this country alone that I have things to write about.
Sure.
And I don't like to mix politics with my music or my own personal thoughts. I kind of keep that separate. I keep that, you know, to personal and private conversation. But for the most part, there's enough material in the sense of what the rest of the world's going through, what other people are thinking and talking about. That in itself is chock full of material. I've got so much to write about, because you just look around you. You look about the world and the politics going on, from religion to just just shit that happens around the world daily. There's something to write about.
Right.
And that alone is that's my inspiration. That's what's giving me the topics, the themes, whatever you want to call it, for everything that I'm writing about. Pretty much every album I've done for the past 5 or 6 years. Some of it was personal. Some of it, especially the first Soto record, Inside the Vertigo, had a lot of personal, deep shit that I had to get out of me, that it was targeted towards people that were either affecting my life or affecting others in my life. I needed to get that out. But for the most part, everything else has been reflections of what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing and what we're all going through. And every day there just seems to be a lot to write about. And to be honest with you, if I had to write the music and the lyrics, that's when I would probably hit a roadblock.
Sure.
But the fact that they get that the music's presented to me, the music is pretty much done. You know, they give me songs in completed forms that all I got to do is fill in the blanks. And that alone, it writes itself. I listen to a song and I know what that song's going to be about. I know what the melody's going to be about. I know what the topic's going to be about. And man, that's what makes it I don't want to say easy. It's never easy. What we do is not easy, but it kind of lends itself to exactly what I'm doing. I hear a tune, I know, man, that's going to be about that. It's going to write itself.
Sure. Well, Jeff, talking about the newest record, moving up to the newest record, Origami has great songs. I can't stop playing it, but you know, that's kind of always my MO with your music. The one thing that I do notice that's different from the first two, however, is this one is quite a bit more roller coastery than the first two. The first two kind of had a musical direction. And I'm not saying this is unfocused. What I'm saying is this one definitely takes you a little bit more on a trip than the last two. Was that by design, or is that just how it came together?
I think it's kind of how it came together. I think it was by accident, mainly because we had a personnel change. Unfortunately, you know, anybody that was paying attention to anything in the rock news 2 years ago knows that we lost our bass player who was on tour with Adrenaline Mob to a tragic accident. And losing David obviously changed the whole demographic of what we were doing and how we were doing it. And for better or worse, I look at it as it had a big influence in our sound and the change in our sound, because having Tony Dickinson, the guy that stepped up and stepped in for David, you know, he kind of led us into another direction. Yet we kind of knew where we were going, but he gave us another element, another foundation that we could lay into that we wouldn't have had we continued the way we were already going. And again, for better or worse, I don't look at it that way. I look at it, we have to move on. We are moving on, and this is the course we're taking now. I think it's a great direction. I think the album is certainly very diverse in that sense. And also, I think by design, we kind of had to step it up a bit because we were being signed to a label that's primarily a prog label. You know, right. Inside Out Music is primarily a prog label. So I told the guys, don't hold back. If we go a little proggy-woggy here and there, it's going to be a good thing. Trust me, because we're going to get a lot of attention because of the whole Sons of Apollo thing. From that, if some of the fans from Sons of Apollo want to have a listen, they're not going to be completely disappointed that I'm not fulfilling what they heard, what I was doing with those guys. And it's completely different. It's completely separated. But on the other hand, it's still me. So there is an expectation of what and how I do it.
Sure. Now, you know, I'm, and this is really has nothing to do with music as much as just emotion. When you go through something like losing a band member or losing anybody, a friend, a band member, a brother, you know, all of which you've had to deal with in the you know course of the last couple of years, does it take some of the energy or the specialness out of it? You know, when you're on stage and you look to your right, left, whichever, and it's a different face that's there than you've seen for years.
Oh God, yes, it's a whole learning curve, especially getting used to somebody's involvement, somebody's, you know, it's before when we were basically on autopilot at one point with Soto and with Dave, because I knew where he was going to be during a certain part of whatever song I knew what he was thinking, how he was. That's how you kind of gel and you get that chemistry. And then you put a new player in. who doesn't quite know he should be on this side of the stage because I'm going to go vamp off with the other guitar player. He's going to be singing with me. You learn all these different things, and that's when you really remember. That's when you really reflect on that missing element. When you have to relearn and kind of retrain the whole process. That's when you remember it all. That's when it really hits home. But before that, you have so much that you have to worry about, from remembering the lyrics, remembering what city you're in, all these different things. But it's really when the show aspect of it is changed. That's what takes getting used to, for sure.
Sure. Now for you personally, what stands out for you on Origami? What do you like the best, or what do you think came out the best?
Honestly, I don't have any dead set song or moment. They all. It sounds cliche, but they all stand out to me. They all step up. They all reflect what I want to show the world, what we have, what this band is supposed to be about. And there's not one given moment that you can actually pinpoint that does it for me. It's a whole thing as far as I'm concerned. You got to listen to the whole record to kind of get an idea where we're going with it, because singles are great, but the whole record is, you got to get the whole flow of what we're doing here to get the idea of it.
Sure. I was almost going to hang up on you if you said these are like my children.
And I was going to hang up on myself if I said that too.
Well, I got a point to one. I like a bunch of the songs. I obviously like World Gone Colder, which we started with, and I like Detonate because that really, that showcases the metalhead side of you that I don't think a lot of people remember is, where your roots were, way back when.
I'm so glad you actually said that. And that's one of the biggest battles I have with the kind of JSS, the diehards have been with me for a lot of years. They forget that I came from that heavier roots.
Right.
They forget the whole Yngwie side. All I keep hearing is, I prefer you singing melodic rock, which is great because it took me a lot of years to establish that from the whole metal thing. But in the end, I'm so influenced by so many different things. And if I'm doing metal, it's not because I just woke up one day and decided to do it. It's like, guys, don't you remember? This is where it all started.
Right. And you've always had that side. And you're right. I'll tell you a quick story. I have a friend that is his favorite band in the entire world is Dream Theater. And I've been trying to sell him on you for years and years and years, and he doesn't like Yngwie. So immediately when I said to him about Sons of Apollo, it was like, yeah, I see Portnoy's in it, blah, blah, blah. He didn't want nothing to do with it. And I told him, I said, dude, just go see the show once, whatever. He goes and sees the show, and he comes back and he goes, dude, that Jeff Scott Soto is fucking amazing. What a voice on this guy. And I was like, dude, I've been telling you this for 10 years.
Amazing.
But
that's awesome, though.
But isn't it sad that people will make a determination off of one little piece? And maybe the reason that happens is because, unlike most singers, you have, I think I was briefly looking at Wikipedia for you, and I think you have 16 established projects and then 40 other guest appearances on records and whatnot. So
yeah, I stopped counting after like 150 albums I've sung lead on. It's kind of ludicrous now I'm not trying to go for any world records or anything. It truly is stuff I want to work on and sing on. So unfortunately, there's a lot of musicians and a lot of bands I've been in and been a part of that can't keep up with the level of what I want to keep challenging myself with.
Sure.
And to me, it's fun. It's like Portnoy. A lot of why he's doing so much now compared to when he was with Dream Theater is because he was kind of stuck in that bubble. Mm-hmm. He was basically in one band. They were successful enough that he didn't really have the time to go bounce around. But once he was out of that bubble, he had the chance to go, now I want to do this and I want to do that. And I love this style and I want to be able to do that kind of record. And that's it gives me that freedom to do that. I never had the level of success that a David Lee Roth or a James Hetfield has. So it allows me that flexibility to go out there and chase what I want to do musically. And man, to me, it's all about challenging myself, because once I get stuck in one thing, I will get bored and I literally will walk away from it. I need to be challenged musically to be interested in it.
Sure. Well, you definitely have created a body of work that, as a music fan, I would have to think that as a music fan, as I am, your records are challenging sometimes. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the Wet Project. It's a little too soft for me, just a little
That's
bit.
crazy. That's the one I get all the time. That people say you should just do that and only that. I'm like, no. Why would I just do that one project? It's another side of me that I'm really proud of, but it's not
Sure.
It's not something I want to do full time. It's going to be missing so many elements of what I'm about.
Do you think that you're the kind of personality that would just get bored? Like just would
Absolutely.
be completely like you couldn't be if Sons of Apollo had sold 18 million records. I don't think you could be only the Sons of Apollo singer. That just doesn't fit you at all.
I would use that as a platform to do even more. No, well, not even more, like more work, more bands, but even more to get my yayas out musically. Because if you give me a platform where I'm reaching out to more people, I want to show those people the kitchen sink. To me, the band Queen was the complete package. And that's a great thing, and it's also a bad thing, because there will only be one Queen. There will only ever be one band that's able to cover that much ground musically that successfully. But man, I'm going to die trying, because that influence was so huge on me that they were able to tap into metal, rock, blues, pop, jazz,
Right.
disco, opera, you name it. They were the masters of everything they tapped into. And I love that. I love that more than anything, that that a band could actually do everything they ever want. They challenge themselves to do. And I want to challenge myself to do all the things that make me tick musically.
Sure. Now, did I see that you're actually, speaking of Queen, that you're actually getting ready to do at least a Queen show where you're doing like a tribute to Queen?
Yeah, there's a buddy of mine in Brazil that owns a really cool rock bar down there. He's celebrating 25 years. And when I was down there the last time, just a few weeks ago with S.O.T.O, he had the idea of, he's doing all kinds of things to celebrate 25 years in the business. And he would love to have me come down and do the Queen thing. And I've scaled down doing those. I don't really have the time for them.
Sure.
He's such a cool dude, and I've done a lot of shows with him in the past, and I thought it might be just a fun thing to do, to go out there and blast out some of those old favorites. I absolutely love doing it. I think it's so much fun singing that material in that catalog. It's just I'm just too busy to do it, and I just happen to have the month of July pretty much wide open, so it worked out perfectly.
Nice, very nice. Well, let me while I'm not talking about S.O.T.O just for a second, let me ask you this one too. I see that your bandmate from Sons of Apollo is the new singer of Asia. How in the world did Bumblefoot get that gig? Or did he just steal it from you?
When you're that talented, when you're as talented as a Bumblefoot, man, I'm surprised that guy's not doing a lot more of those kind of things. And I'm stoked. I can't wait to see him fronting the band and doing those songs. I mean, everybody who knows, anybody who was alive during the MTV era knows those huge Asia songs. And the idea of seeing Bumblefoot doing it was going to be amazing.
It's just, I guess, because I obviously don't know his singing voice. I mean, I know him from Guns N' Roses and Sons of Apollo, and
Right.
the band, the Anarchy band that he did with Scott Weiland,
Right.
but I don't know him as a singer. And when I first saw that,
Okay.
when I first saw that press release, I thought it was a misprint. I thought maybe he joined to be a guitar player or something in there, and I was like, wait a minute, he's the singer. How does that work?
Well, Bumblefoot is very, very imperative, especially on the live aspect of what I'm doing with the band, because I rely on him so heavily on his vocal prowess. He's got an amazing range, a ridiculous range, and he's very musically, he's got the whole package musically. He knows harmonies. He can pick out harmonies. If I'm singing one note, he can drop to another note or go up to a higher note. He's really quick like that. I love working with people like that. So naturally, he is. I guess you haven't heard any of his solo records. He's the lead singer in all those solo records too, and that's why he's actually, for all intents and purposes, he is a lead singer as well as a great guitar player.
Okay, yeah, I have not, and I now I'm very curious to hear that stuff, because I just. Yeah, I guess I'm as short-sighted as my buddy was about you.
No, you'll be thoroughly impressed with what the guy has to offer. He's got a very cool, just a cool voice to listen to when he's singing. And again, as I said, without him, I'd be dead on stage with Sons of Apollo, because I rely on him so much to be there for me. But on certain nights where I know I'm not going to be able to hit certain notes, like Ron, let's switch. You take the lead, I'll take the lower harmony. Those kind of things.
Right.
He's so good as a singer. It's ridiculous.
Very cool. Well, speaking of Sons of Apollo, you guys have obviously you had great success with the first record. I think it probably exceeded what you guys thought it was going to do. Where does that leave you for this one? Does it put a lot of pressure? Is the label going to leave you alone to do what you want, or are they kind of wanting another, a clone of the first record? Where exactly does that fit for all of you guys now?
Well, they did leave us alone for the first one. They trusted the pedigree that's involved in this. They knew that we're not going to just piss out something for the sake of everybody's got chops and let's just show them off. We needed songs. We needed to make sure we delivered something that was going to be instantly recognizable and have its own legs as the band, and not just fragments from other different bands. And that's exactly what we're doing with album number 2. I've literally just written the lyrics and melodies of song number 5. Where I'm about halfway done with getting the vocals done, and the other guys are doing all their bits and pieces, getting ready to start mixing it. So it'll probably be out early next year. I believe we're talking about January next year, and we're going to be hitting the road immediately from that. Regarding the material, yeah, we know exactly what we want to do with this band. It's the same ideal I have with S.O.T.O. We know song-wise, we got to have the hooks. We got to have something that has meat and potatoes, and that's exactly what we're doing for album number 2.
Oh, sure. For with Sons, one more about Sons, and then we'll get back to S.O.T.O. But with Sons of Apollo, I was a big believer that one of the main reasons that you guys were able to garner so much attention, at least initially, the very first blast, and then when people heard the record, they appreciated it, but was because Dream Theater, who everybody's going to compare you to, was coming off what most think was a bad record, The Astonishing. And and I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying, the opinion out there is that people didn't like that record.
Right. Now
they've put out a record that everybody likes. It's The Distance Over Time. And I wonder for you, do you think that the fact that now that they've kind of reestablished themselves, if that actually makes it harder for you guys, is better for you guys because the comparison will be against a good record instead of a bad record? Or do you think I'm just full of shit there?
It's not even within our thought process. We're not thinking about what they're doing. They're not thinking about what we're doing. Of course, it's a healthy, I guess you want to call it competition. It's a healthy thing for them to put out a great record and for the fans to accept it, and then to be looking at us at what we're going to be putting out next. That's always a healthy thing, but we're not looking at it as, well, they did this and now we're going to do that. Absolutely no way.
Sure.
I've never been a huge Dream Theater guy. I've never really followed what they do. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't tell you one song, one album for the next. I heard The Astonishing. I didn't know what people were making such a to-do about. I thought it was great, but I don't know what to compare it to in that sense. I listened to it as a record. I didn't listen to it in comparison to what Mike did with them or what album they did, whatever. I didn't think of any of that. And none of us are thinking of any of that. I don't think they were thinking, well, Sons of Apollo did this, so we got to do that. It's completely ludicrous that any of us are thinking about what the other one's doing. But in the sense of success, we always wish them great. We always wish them well. We don't look at them as, oh, good, they're petering off now, we're going to take over the throne. It's nothing like that at all.
Right.
We're all in this for the same reasons, for the same respect, and it should remain exactly that.
Sure. I saw, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I'll ask. Did I see that you wrote a song for the latest Uriah Heep record?
Yes, sir.
How did that happen?
My buddy Davey Rimmers, the new new bass player. Sorry, yeah. He's been with the band for a few years now.
Sure.
And when they were working on the new record, he was asked to pitch some ideas, some songs. And he came to me. He's always been a great friend, and he's a huge fan of my Talisman years. He loves those records the same way he loves all the favorite Queen albums that we always talk about. So he came to me with a song that he worked up with Richie Faulkner of Judas Priest, And I don't know if Richie co-wrote on the song, but I know he played on the demo that we submitted.
Okay.
And it was a great tune. Immediately I heard it. I knew one of those exact things. I knew exactly what to do with it. I don't know Heap's material to know if they would have liked the lyric, if they would have liked the melody. All I did was complete the song and make it sound the way it sounded to me in my ears when I first heard the original demo that he sent me. The guys apparently loved it so much that they kept it note for note. I mean, the singing and the final outcome is almost identical to how I sang it on the demo. So that's a huge validation to me, and I couldn't be more proud to be involved in that.
Nothing wrong with putting another historic band that you've worked with sort of in your cap, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It was such a huge thrill to find out that not only was it were they going to use the song and record it, but to actually release it as the lead-off single. It was like, you got to be kidding me. This is such a thrill.
No question, man. Well, Jeff, moving back to Origami here, just for a couple more questions. Tell me about the song "Torn," which is my favorite song on the record, by the way.
Oh,
it's such a, it's one of the most powerful lyrical songs I think you've ever wrote, man. Very cool jam.
Well, thanks, man. The actual song was co-written with my drummer Edu and the guy that wrote the song Hypermania with him. It's a Brazilian guy that I've been co-writing with for quite a few years now. We've come up with a lot of great stuff together, and it was, this guy's name's Luis. We asked him if he had any song ideas when we were about to write Origami, and he said, ideas? I have full songs. I've got like complete songs that I can let you guys sift through, and whatever you want to use, whatever you want to retweak. And that was one of them that nothing had to be changed, nothing had to be fixed. We just had to re-record it and do it, with the guys in the band our way. But for the most part, the song is as you hear it, on the demo that he sent us. I loved it from the get. And it was just one of those things that wrote itself. It's I write everything in double entendre. I write all my lyrics to kind of be seen and heard one way, but they actually might mean another thing. And that's I like to keep it fresh that way. I don't even like to discuss what my lyrics are about, because I would like listeners to actually make up their own minds what they think it's about. And it's funny to even find out or to hear what people think those lyrics are about, because most of the time they're completely off.
Sure.
But I love that you can picture one of my songs as a personal relationship between a man and a woman, husband or wife, or a man and a man, depending what sexual preference you follow. Or that song could be taken in a completely different context between two countries. It could be taken between two sports figures going head to head in a competition. I love taking topics and writing about, making it so that you have no idea which one it's about.
Sure.
But for the most part, most of my lyrics can be taken in the context of between two people, whether it's a love or a breakup or a hate relationship. Sure. It can be between two human beings, but for the most part, it's not always about that. And I love being able to kind of keep that whole the whole mystique about it.
So just associate it to whatever you want, but keep listening, right?
Pretty much, yeah. In the end, all this deep bullshit mumbo jumbo, in the end, it really matters if anybody's listening.
Right, exactly. Well, dude, is there going to be any chances to hear these songs live? Is there? I know on the last one you did a very, very, very short little run of shows. Are you going to have even that opportunity this time?
Well, that very short run of shows is, it's always by design. I'm always testing the waters to see if and when U.S. audiences are ready for me, and it doesn't quite seem like they are. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if nobody's coming to the shows, or if there's very little interest from promoters, there's no chance of getting me out there. It's slim to none that anybody's going to put the kind of funds and finance, especially a band like this, is the band are basically based out of different continents. Right. There's 3 continents that represent S.O.T.O. It's kind of expensive for us to just go out there and play a couple clubs. So unless the world is latching on, and I have to only hit the markets that I know we're going to get away with. And so far that's Europe and South America at the moment. We do have a European tour that we're about to announce. It's going to be in September. But the rest of the world is a wait and see, man.
Sure.
I need more people like you to be that enthusiastic about the material, and then we'll have something.
Well, if nothing else, at least I got to see one of those shows. I went to the Pittsburgh show, and it was great. I mean, it was really great. Even though you said that you were sick, and you kept saying, "Oh, I sound like shit tonight," and you sounded fantastic. But
that was one of my that was. I never cancel a show, but man, that was one I should have canceled. That was a rough one. And I went when I finally got diagnosed, because that just wasn't going away. Finally got the diagnosis, and I did have pneumonia after all.
Wow.
So it wasn't just a bad cold. I was suffering, man.
Well, you faked it well, my friend, because it was a great show.
It's sad because we had to pull a few songs that I knew there was just no way I could have pulled them off.
Right. No, I hear you. Well, Jeff, what's up for the next 12 months? About 14 new records or what?
No. I've slowed down the pace a little bit as I'm working this album cycle for the S.O.T.O album for Origami, and doing some road stuff. I'm also doing some acoustic appearances with my partner in crime, Jason Bieler from Saigon Kick, where we've kind of tapped into a little bucket list item of doing some acoustic shows, and it's snowballing.
Right.
The demand's coming from all over the place. We'll be in Chicago next month. So I'm fulfilling appearances here and there, and the S.O.T.O tour in September, and finishing up the Sons of Apollo record next year. I'll be on the road with S.O.A pretty much throughout 2020. And who knows what's going to happen after that? Well, I do, but I'm not going to reveal just yet.
Right. Real quick about the Jason Bieler thing, because I actually, I put it out on Facebook that I was going to be talking to you, and I had a fan that asked about that. Are there plans, or are you not that far along yet about maybe doing something recording wise with him?
At the moment, we're keeping it based on what we have. And that's been a saving grace here for the U.S. because, as I'm talking about, there's no real interest for me or for S.O.T.O at the moment to do a proper tour of the U.S. This is something that's getting me out there, and it's I love playing my own backyard, and this gives me the opportunity to go and kind of break new bread with the U.S. because the only other touring I do in the U.S. is with Trans-Siberian Orchestra annually. Right. So this gives me a chance to go out there and meet new people, and maybe again, I can kind of weasel my way in and squeeze them into liking the new S.O.T.O stuff and keep building this little thing that I've got going on here. So yeah, it's at the moment we're just going with the flow, and we're just having a blast doing the kind of the Saigon Kick catalog.
Sure. Well, very good, man. You're obviously busy as always, making great music as always. It's Jeff Scott Soto. The new record is called Origami. It is out now wherever you buy or listen to music. It is there. Jeff, where should people go to keep in touch with you or follow what you're doing or where you're going to be, etc.?
Well, JeffScottSoto.com is the obvious, Facebook and MySpace. MySpace. Did I just say that out loud? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I have all the official things out there as well. And we actually just launched today. We just launched the new S.O.T.O site. So that's exciting. That's www.sotoworld.net, not .com, .net, sotoworld.net. And that just launched today, and it's great to have a new official page for S.O.T.O, and anything S.O.T.O you can check up on that page, everything else on all the Jeff Scott Soto sites.
Very cool, man. Well, Jeff, you know the drill, man. Pick a song and tell us a story about it to wrap the interview up with.
Well, I'm trying to really push the latest single, so let's go with that. I want you to play Hypermania. Okay. It's one of my favorites from the record. It's one of the reasons why it is the first band video that we did with this. We shot it in Brazil with we went back to our video director that did the very first S.O.T.O video for us back in when we did Inside the Vertigo. He's a very talented director named Tiago, and he killed it on this one. So Hypermania.
All right, let's check it out right now. It's Hypermania. It is Jeff Scott Soto and S.O.T.O right here on your Classic Metal Show.